Hi Lee, really well done on Tuesday, mate. Some really big changes during the session. If we start top left, we discussed a little bit about how much of an effect on the swing path your arms coming away from your body had. So if we just start this one back, and we'll just show you what we mean. So as we start back, say from P1 to P2, we talked about how the hands should travel along this bottom line here, so the sort of like the hand plane, the shaft plane if you want to call it that. And then from say P2 to P3, it should start to rise. And then from P3 to P4, it should continue up, so it ends up on top of the line. Now, as you can see here, the hands have come on top of that line almost instantly. So if we start that again, you can almost see, say from P1, the first move is for the hands to come away from the body, picking the club up outside the line, and then the only way you were ever going to get that back on plane was to really reroute it on the way down and almost try and give it one of these kind of movements here, which, as we discussed, would be quite a bad idea. So, excuse me. And then as you started down, if we get down to say P6, you can see here how the shaft is way outside the hands. And then from there, as I said to you before, you would never be able to hit a draw from there. You'd hit a lot of cut shots, a lot of slices, and even the odd shank as well. So you see as we get down to here, I think this one was actually a bit of a straight off the hosel shot. You can see here, straight at impact, straight into the hosel. And we were really struggling for some consistency. So what we were trying to do is try and get this kind of movement going. If anything, he's slightly under that plane, but it was a really good reference for you. So if we start, excuse it, let's get back on there. And then take you back to P2. There we are. So you can see straight away you're almost on that upper elbow plane, the shoulder plane, straight away. So the feel we had you doing throughout the session was to feel like you were bringing the hands in as much as possible. We put the canes down on the floor, angled them in at about 15 to 20 degrees to try and give maximum hands in. If we start back here, you can see a massive improvement there. Okay, maybe the club heads come in a touch, but we're not talking massive amounts. Hands have come much more on that bottom plane line, and then as it starts up, right on top of that shoulder plane. So we take Charlie back, and you can see that's kind of the position we were going for rather than this. And then on the way through, we were trying to give you the feeling of getting the hands working out, so getting the club face working out, so in to out as much as possible. And the way we did that was we got the ball back in the grid at setup to give you a feel for really coming on the inside. And if we take you from P4 down to P5, you can see there much better. And then P6, where the shaft is parallel with the floor, instead of pointing in this direction, it's now pointing straight down the target line. So a really good feel for you going forward. And if we just take Charlie down here, we kind of get the idea of where we're really going for. So a massive improvement there. So in terms of the backswing for this feel, it was hands in as much as possible, and then the ball back in the grid to get you the feel of hitting the ball on the back of that circle as much as possible. Now from a face-on view, it's much easier to see the ball back in the grid here. So we talked about centre of the grid, forward in the grid, and then back in the grid here. Now we also discussed how we also discussed how that would impact on your swing path. You can see here, if I just highlight the cones here, if you were to hit the ball that far back in the grid, you can see that the club would be working in an outward direction, rather than if you were hitting it on the front of the grid. It would definitely be hitting in an inward direction, which is obviously not really what we wanted. So from this face-on view, you can see it's a lot easier, like I say, to see. Excuse me. For you to be able to see the ball back in the grid. And the second point really that we started talking about was trying to feel like you were getting more extension in your backswing. So if we just see here, we were working the left shoulder down more, and we were rotating, but the spine was still flexed forward too much as you started the backswing. And as we discussed later on, as soon as the spine starts flexing forward in your backswing, the weight goes over the right hand side, which brings the low point of your swing too far back, meaning you're more than likely going to hit the ground behind the ball. So the feel that we were trying to get you to do, obviously we wanted to try and do in more of this kind of situation here. Now, as you were swinging back, what we were doing is, earlier on, you were swinging back, and then I would put you in that position. It was almost trying to get the top of your spine extending as much as possible. So as we start to swing back here, it was almost feeling as though you were trying to keep your head away from a cane or something next to your head. And you can see there, a massive improvement. Absolutely massive improvement. And this allowed the weight to stay more central, allowing for you to then start driving the weight forward into your left side quicker and sooner. And then really the last sort of thing that we talked about was, as you start the swing down, trying to get the hands, the arms should I say, as straight as quickly as you can. So if we just start grunt weight down here, you can see the left arm's nice and straight, the right arm is straightening through impact, and then as we get through here, elbows squeezed together, arms as straight as possible. And you've always had a little bit of trouble with catching shots thin and maybe a little bit topped, and this one wasn't too bad, but you can still see the elbows flexing apart. Now this one we got you to doing sort of a slow motion, almost trying to punch the ball maybe 70 yards or so. You can see there a much tighter gap between the elbows, much more like Grant here. A much tighter gap between the elbows, which would then avoid pulling the club away from the ground, and just allowing you to get the club down into the floor a lot easier, and avoiding those top shots. Good luck with it. If you've got any questions, give us a shout. See you soon.